Clear skies, everyone. Today I have privilege to talk with Keith Short. Welcome, Keith.
Hi, thanks for interviewing me.
Thank you. First of all, I have to congratulate you to your region award.
Yeah, that was quite a surprise and an honor. I was very flattered.
Well, but first of all, let me ask you, how come that you are interested in astronomy? And my understanding is that you did a lot, but how it happened?
Well, when I was young, I lived in a little mining town in Arizona, and we had very clear skies. And back in the 50s and 60s, the skies in Arizona were extremely dark. So most nights you could go out and there were lots of stars in the sky. And my father, who was a an engineer at the mine in the little mining town, was quite knowledgeable about stars. He had grown up in Arizona, and he would point out constellations and such to me. And if there were, like the planets and stuff like that, we would see. And back in those days, it was very common to see the Milky Way uh, at night. If there was no moon, you could usually see some corner of the Milky Way somewhere up there. So that was something that later in my life that became a real treat to see the Milky Way. But in my youth, it was very common. I took it for granted. And then when I was I think in the sixth grade, Comet Ikea came by. And it was a pretty spectacular comet. And one of my science teachers from the elementary school I attended wanted to go out and look for it. We'd gone out and looked for it as it went toward the sun, which was at that point a sunset object. And but we didn't see it. We were disappointed. We didn't get a look at it. I guess the people in Japan got a pretty good look at it, but we didn't get much of a vista of it in the United States. And so we decided after it went by the sun, there was another chance to see it in the morning. And so we got up early and went out to a clear, flat area about 20 miles from the little mining town because we were right next to a mountain and the morning sun was obscured by the mountain. So we had to go up to the plateau
Mhm.
where we could see out. And we drove up the teacher turned the car off. The three or four boys that I was with, we all piled out of the back of the car and we looked and two-thirds of the tail was sticking out of the southern horizon. It was just astonishing and it was huge. If you held your hand up, it would be like two or three hands high. It was very extended across a lot of the sky. So I had brought a small twin lens reflex camera, a kind of a box camera, and a tripod. And the only film my dad had that he set me up with as he sent me off to go do this was a roll of Tri-X, which is a faster film than the usual black and white film. So I had the advantage of having a camera that had a faster film in it. And so I loaned a tripod to one of my buddies, and he and I both took pictures of the comet as the comet steadily rose as the sun came starting to head up. We got to where the comet was nicely above the horizon, and the camera format was perfect for getting a large fraction of the field occupied by comet. So I took, a bunch of pictures, and we went home, and my dad had gone out with me on our trips to try to see it at sunset, which were all unsuccessful. And so he said, well, were you able to see the comet? And I said, oh yeah, it was real plain. It was pretty good. And my dad's eyes got real big. You saw it? Yeah, it was, there's no big deal. Like we were piling in and out of the car because it was cold. And so we would, get the camera. I would open the shutter, jump in the car, wait a minute or so, go out, close the shutter, doing a little bit of a time exposure. And so my dad did our photo processing of black and white film in the basement. It had a little dark room. So he went down, developed the negatives. And after the negatives were fixed so that, you could expose them to light, I remember him unrolling this roll of 120 film. And here was the smudge on each of the pictures that I had taken of the comet. And my dad's mouth just dropped open. He couldn't believe that I'd done so well. And so we printed pictures that night of the comet, and they turned out quite well. And so he wanted the next day we were going up, we were going to look again. Well, the comet was moving at 90 miles an hour. Well, a little faster than that. It was scooting across the sky. So the next day when we went to see it, the moon had changed, everything had changed a little bit. Conditions were not as favorable. So he was able to take a picture of it, but it wasn't nearly as good as the pictures I'd taken the night before. So uh, he always regretted that he didn't go accompany us on that morning trip up to see it, but he had work that morning, and so he didn't go.
Well,
Um,
what I hear, it has to be really fast, in perihelion, and so you was really lucky, it was
yeah,
probably the
yeah,
best
yeah,
possible morning.
yep, yeah. The that sun grazer was scooting right along, and it moved away in a hurry. It was a fairly short period where it was available, and we just happened to be there at the right time. So my picture turned out real well, and my teacher that was with us sent the photo to the Phoenix paper because we lived in a mining town that was about 70 miles from
And what was the
Phoenix.
name of that mining town?
Superior, it was the name of the town.
Oh, okay.
And I think it was named after Lake Superior because I think a lot of the miners that started the copper mine that was there came from mines in the Great Lakes area.
Mhm, mhm.
But anyway, the town's name was Superior, and so he sent the picture to the Phoenix paper, and somebody from the paper called and got permission to use the paper. They talked to my parents, and I was 11 years old at the time, and the little headline in the paper that below the caption for the picture said 12-year-old captures comet, and I was quite offended that they said I was 12 when I was 11, although actually I turned 12 like 3 weeks later, but I wanted credit for being 11, not but that's what I remember about it. And after that, I kind of had the bug of being interested in astronomy. But the skies were so dark and there were so many stars visible that I had a hard time learning to identify um, constellations because there were just too many stars,
Mhm,
and they all looked so bright. It was hard for me to figure out what stars were what. But a couple years later, my dad changed jobs. We moved to a San Francisco suburb. So now we were living in a more urban area at sea level and not at 3,000 feet. And the skies were, much more light polluted.
mhm.
And that had the advantage of that now stars were sufficiently obscured that only the bright ones were the ones that showed. So now recognizing constellations was no problem. And um, I I learned some constellations, the really bright ones. I learned while I lived in California, and I haven't lived anywhere place with skies as dark as the skies of my youth up
Mhm.
in the mountains of Arizona.
Well, we
But
would like to have that program.
yeah, and wouldn't we all like to have that problem now? But occasionally, my wife and I have gone to Big Bend National Park in southern Texas, which has extremely dark skies.
Mhm,
And the place where we've observed there is about 4,000 feet. And so it's very much like it was when I was a kid in Arizona, where there's too many stars to recognize. When you're trying to figure out, well, which star is Polaris, there's multiple candidates. It's not like here in Illinois where it's real easy to find the North Star because in that part of the sky there aren't so many candidates. But in Big Bend, it was harder to. Once again, you're at the same handicap of trying to recognize the stars with being obscured by the less bright stars. It's kind of fun,
So, but I didn't know you are in Illinois, right?
right? We,
Uh, probably not so many stars like in Arizona or Texas.
yeah, we we
So,
have we we have um, fairly fair kind of middling. I guess we have typical Midwestern skies here in Rockford. We're far enough from Chicago. We don't have a lot of light from that, but the Rockford metropolitan area is about a quarter of a million people. So they all the yard lights and the farmers' lights and all that stuff create some obscuration here. But we can recognize the constellations, and you can still see the planets. Yeah.
so you are a member of Rockford. What is the name?
Yeah, the Rockford Amateur Astronomers. Yeah,
Oh,
that's the club here. And after I moved to Rockford, I didn't join the astronomy club for many years. Um, my kids kept, children keep you busy, and
exactly.
I was very busy business career and all that. But um, when personal computers started to become less expensive, we got a computer. And I started coding simple programs for, I guess they call it the in-body program or in-body programming or in-body problem, where you
Oh, okay.
have two bodies that are attracted by
Yeah, yeah.
gravitation. And so you write code that simulates that. So I started doing stuff where I would create clouds of objects and then try to, watch as the objects collide and coalesce and whatnot. So I wrote code that simulated that stuff, and that
Well,
was
tells
that was
me
quite
that
fun.
you are in physics.
Yeah, it was more of a physics problem than an
Yeah.
astronomy problem, but it was astronomy guided physics because you look in the sky and see this, you say, well, how can that happen? And then you run physics simulations and see how it can happen. So I did a lot of planetary coalescence stuff, and I bumped into a guy that was a member of the Rockford Astronomy Club. He said, Keith, you should come and talk to us about what you're doing. He said, club will be interested. So I went to a club meeting and they invited me to join. And I went to one of their public nights not long after, and I got to look through their really nice telescopes that we have at the observatory at one of the city parks. And I said, "Yeah, this is good. I like these people. I like the opportunity to be a guide to help other people observe the night sky." And so I have been a member of the club now for about 20 years. The and then when I came time for me to retire from work, about that time I heard about the library telescope program, and thought, well, I'm looking for something to do in retirement that is some service to the community. And the library telescope program looked like a great chance to put some telescopes in the libraries here in Rockford. Our skies are dark enough so that people can observe things, and you never know when you're going to light a fire where it inspires a kid to go off and figure things out and do great things in astronomy or physics or engineering. Who knows? But astronomy is kind of and and the night sky is kind of a gateway drug to a lot of math and physics. And so that's how I look at it, that I'm providing kids with the opportunity to inspire their curiosity and perhaps trigger something that turns into something big. So far
So,
in Rockford,
if I,
we have
if
telescopes
I,
in 4 libraries.
if I may ask, uh, you know, my understanding is that you are also part of like some national group that you are
Right,
talking about. So could you tell
right.
me more about that?
Sure. Well, when I wanted to start doing the library telescope thing, I heard about, I saw a website. I heard about this website where the astronomy club in St. Louis had had pulled together some directions on how to place telescopes in your local libraries.
Mhm.
So I went to that website and I read about it, and I contacted the gentleman Don Flicken, who's the coordinator of the Library Telescope program, and talked to him a little bit on the telephone. And so I purchased a the model of telescope that they used for that. Back then, it was a Orion Starblast telescope, a simple
Mhm.
5 or 4 and a quarter, 4.5 inch Dobsonian reflector. And so I purchased a telescope, and with his directions, I went to a library. I contacted the library, and yeah, they were interested. So I went to them and I showed them the telescope and whatnot. And they said, great, let's figure out how to pay for it. So they suggested I contact a local Rotary Club that did service projects and raised money to do things for children,
Mhm.
educational related things and physical fitness related things for kids. So I made a presentation to that Rotary Club, and they came up with the money to place the telescopes in that library. And so we got telescopes in the first library, and then COVID came along. And then after the shutdown kind of ended, I was able to um, talk to another library, and they not only wanted to do it, but when I spoke to them, it was at the end of the year, and they had some money left in their budget for that year, so they went ahead and funded two of the three telescopes for that library, and a donor provided the third telescope for them. And some other libraries in the area heard what I had done at the first two libraries, and they were interested as well. And so they contacted me, and I went and gave the usual dog and pony show, and they wrote a check that night for us to get telescopes ready for them. But about that time, the impact of the COVID shutdown was hitting the supply chain for the telescope companies that made the telescopes we use for Orion. So they didn't have any telescopes to deliver.
Mhm.
And so it took a little while to get telescopes, but then the COVID shutdown or the COVID impacts had finally worked their way through the supply chain, and we got telescopes for them. So now we had three libraries, each with three telescopes. So we have 9 telescopes in the Rockford
Oh,
area. And then a donor contacted the main library in Rockford and said that they would like to place telescopes in their library. So the main library assigned somebody to me, and I worked with them to do the last 4 telescopes that we've done. Or three. So now we've done 12 telescopes in the Rockford area. So if you want to check out a telescope in Rockford, it's pretty easy to find a library that will check
oh,
a telescope to you. So
well,
it worked out
well,
really well.
pretty good.
Yeah.
My
And
understanding
in,
is
in
that,
addition to in addition to placing the telescopes, we also do a lot of outreach in the libraries. So there's a presentation at one of the libraries every other month or so. I'm going to a library to demonstrate how to use the telescopes, do a little education for their patrons, and a little program of whatever's happening in the sky. Uh, we had a comet come through not too long ago, and so there were programs about comets. I do programs about meteor showers. Um, I do programs about orbital body mechanics and junk like that. So we usually uh, bundle a little bit of how to use the telescope with a little talk, a little astronomy or physics education. So it's all good.
this may actually sense. My understanding is that you used to be also newsletter editor. Could you tell me about that, about newsletters? You know how
About what now? I listen.
uh,
I'm not sure I understood you.
about the newsletter, like on monthly basis or a regular basis. Did you create newsletters?
Um, I'm not understanding you exactly, Joseph.
Um, well, did you publish for your club?
Oh yeah, I've been a newsletter editor as well. Yeah, I've done that, and that's a lot of fun. My favorite newsletter of the newsletters I did back when I was the editor was the one where we went off, where club members went off to observe the total solar eclipse back in 2017, and we had club members scattered almost the length of the path of totality across the United States. So I had pictures from each of the club members and their descriptions of what they observed during the eclipse and whatnot. And that was my a real fun issue. But sadly, in this more recent eclipse, happened a few years ago, I guess about 2 years ago now.
Yes.
My wife and I went to Texas to observe it,
Yeah.
and we pretty much got rained out. We were in Fredericksburg, Texas, and we got a couple little glimpses through some sucker holes in the clouds, but we didn't really get to observe it properly. But we did get to watch the chickens all go into the chicken house when it got dark in the middle of the day, and the cattle and stuff do their settling down for the night, even though it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So it was that stuff was fascinating, and we met some nice people. I was at a gas station not long afterwards because after we did the eclipse in Fredericksburg, we went down to Big Bend for some dark sky observing. And I there were some kind of rough looking guys at a gas station filling up their Harleys and motorcycle guys. And that's not me being kind of a pencil neck geek kind of guy. I don't have a lot of conversation with motorcycle people. And uh, I just something about him just told me that these guys probably were down in Texas for the eclipse. And so I asked him, "Did you come down here for the eclipse?" And they did, and they had great stories. They had started out close by Fredericksburg where we were, and saw that it was probably going to get clouded out. So they zipped on their motorcycles down to southern Texas, where they had some visibility of the eclipse, which I did not have. And so we had a very interesting and enjoyable discussion, which was taking me out of my comfort zone a little bit to talk to guys with the leather jackets and the gnarly tattoos and all. But it was very pleasant, and it reminds me that what a great world we live in, that we can all get along.
So
It was good.
you took first picture of comet at age 11. Do
Yep.
you take any sky pictures now?
Well, I do some time lapse of the night sky, and especially when I go down to Big Bend, I got a rig put together where I do night sky time lapse, and that has been kind of fun. Um, but I don't have, the biggest telescope I have is a library telescope. I don't have a fancy big telescope, and I don't do all that much night observing. The majority of the time when I'm out looking at the night sky, it's with a group of people from the library, and I point out where Saturn and Jupiter and get them the moon, and I try to get that 11-year-old kid pointing the telescope at the moon and make him think that he's an expert. Because if you can do that, then it's making sure that he's going to check that telescope out and use it. So that's what I do now. That's my greatest joy.
This social part is actually excellent, because it's very enjoyable to share that knowledge with other
Yeah,
people,
yeah,
and actually library telescope is perfect telescope. You know,
yeah,
it, it's small enough, you can very easy put it in car, and it's amazing what you can see, especially on sky like Texas or
right.
Arizona, and even here in North Center.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
what is your next next astronomy move? You know, what is your plan
Well,
this
well,
summer?
I have one more library in town that I want to place telescopes in, and I'm not exactly sure why, but historically that library has been a hard sell. They used to have a library director there that was not interested in the library telescope program, though I gave her a pretty good sales job um, 6 or 7 years ago. And it was clear to me that we weren't going to be putting any library telescopes in that library until that woman retired. And recently she retired. And so I have great hopes that the new director will be a little easier sell. But so far he's proven to be not an easy sell. So I'm gonna have to work a little harder to get telescopes in there. But I want to do that before I have wrap up the library telescope chapter of my life.
Okay.
But that won't be for a few more years. So I've got several more years to keep working on them. So I'm hoping that I'll get there.
So if people are taking those library telescopes, they can have it like 1 week, 2 weeks, or how long they can.
You, typically, each library owns the telescopes, and so they do with them as they please. But what most people are doing is you can check it out for a week, and then they're usually, if there's nobody on a waiting list, they'll allow them to renew it for a week. So that's typically what the libraries in town are doing. And the usage of the telescopes here in Rockford are such that each one gets checked out maybe 20 times a year.
Mhm.
And so usually, if there's telescopes available so that they can allow the person to keep them 2 weeks if they want to. And the none of the telescopes have been destroyed. The ones that went into the first library in 2019 are all still working and working pretty well. The consortium that I'm part of has worked with a telescope um, manufacturing company, and they have improved the model of the telescope that we use. We no longer use the Orion Star Blast because when Orion went out of business, we had to find somebody else. And our new partner that we're working with is making a very good telescope that's a bit more robust than the Orion telescope was. Optically, it's about the same, but it's physically more robust. So there's improved durability of the focusing mechanism and whatnot. And we're anticipating that as that new model telescope gets phased in, we'll have fewer service issues. But the service issues in Rockford have been very few. I think I fix maybe 2 telescopes a year of the 12 telescopes that are out there, and the all the repairs have been very minor. So
So
it's good.
I believe that the company, your company is High Point Scientific or something like that.
Yes, High Point Scientific. And I want to make clear to anybody that's watching this video that the Library Telescope Program does not sell telescopes. We'd have absolutely no financial tie-in to High Point Scientific. They were just a supplier that was willing to work with us. And High Point Scientific is selling the library telescopes to libraries at absolutely, minimal cost. They're not, this is not a moneymaker for them. And it's, they're gambling to some extent that when people use these telescopes, that they will say, wow, that's having a telescope is good. Let's go get a telescope. Well, maybe we'll get a little bigger one. And so that the people will buy a fancier telescope than the library telescope, which is a pretty uh, it's intended to be simple to use, and so it's a very simple telescope. It's not a very elegant telescope, and at 4.5 inches, it's not a very big telescope. But all its smallness and its simplicity allow it to be a very good library telescope. So I have great appreciation of the work that High Point has done to put this new model in our hands. It's a really good telescope.
Yeah, definitely. I think that it's yeah lucky, you know, that basically library telescope has some new provider, new manufacturer because I believe that it's a great program. Keith,
Yep.
it was very good to talking to you. I wish you good observing summer and many installed library telescope.
Yep. Okay. Well, thank you, Joseph. Thank you very much.
Thank you.